Hi everyone, this is Cindy from Vintage to New, and we're going to get started on our journal today. So I had a video showing how to cut out the pages out of a book, and something tragic will happen to it. So I'm just going to show you a mock-up of how to do it. So this is the book that we're going to use. Now when you're picking a journal that you want to make, pay attention to the size. This journal is 5.5 inches across this way, and it's about 7.5 inches this way. So when you fold an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, it's going to fit in here. It will be too tall. You'll need to cut it down in the length this way. But if you buy books that are too big to use 8.5 by 11 inch paper, it makes it really hard to do a journal. So keep that in mind. This is an old Reader's Digest book. They're really a good size. They feel good in your hands. They're easy to move around. A lot of times the papers on them are still really pretty. So that's something to keep in mind. And all you have to do is open your book up, and it's still attached, right? And you very carefully, I use a single-edged razor blade is what I use, but you can use a craft knife or whatever. I have just always used these for everything. And you start here at the top, and you just slice down through the, through the paper that holds your book together. You do not want to slice through the spine, so be careful with that. So you slice the front, then you go over, you hold your book, and you just slice down the back. You take out the pages and just set them aside. And then this one still has some little rough spots in here, and you can clean that all up. But that's all that holds your book together are these papers here, and usually there's a little bit of cloth or something here. So that's that for a book that is like this. Now if you're buying a book that is glued, trying to think if I have one in here, a glued book, but you know what I'm talking about, one that the pages are glued to the spine. That is not what you want. You want one that is like this. Okay, so now that we know what size paper we're going to use, then we move on to what do we fill it with? Well, when you do a junk journal, people fill them with all kinds of things. A lot of people use coffee dyed paper. That's what this is. And sometime I will do a video on coffee dyed paper, but I'm going to link Wendy's Journal Adventure. I like the way she does her paper. It's similar to the way I do mine, so I'll put her link in the description below. So you'll want some paper, and you know, you don't always have to do old-fashioned looking things. You know, like your stained paper. You could use plain white if you want, if that's the look that you're going for. You're going to need a theme for your journal. The theme that I chose to do this time, remember I did fairies the first time, was this one turned out, it was supposed to be a gardening journal, but the more I did, the more I turned it into kind of just like a journal of the early teens and 20s. And so images that kind of have that look. This is a digi-print kit that I put together. I'll put it in my Etsy shop, but believe me, you can do anything you want. And you'll see why that these are printed on both sides here in just a minute. So that's what I did. So I love little children. They always crop up in everything that I do. But so this is what will be in here. These are just the main pages, fronts and backs. And then when you do a journal, you want to have lots of extra little things to put in. Let me back up 1 minute. All of these pages that I printed, if you'll notice, they are super crisp images, all right, and they're gorgeous. These were printed using matte photo paper. I personally buy the Canon paper, and I used my inkjet printer to do these. I did front and back. And so they turn out just super, super great. For the ephemera stuff, like this, I printed this on my laser printer. It didn't have to be fancy, but I used a heavier stock of copy paper. Copy paper comes in like 20-pound weight, or 24-pound weight or whatever. So I got the like 24-pound weight, just to give it just a little bit more sturdiness. Now, a lot of people in their journals will put in, like this has got a lot of flowers and botanicals and stuff in it. And so they'll have old books that have interesting botanical information and stuff. I didn't have a book that was the right size that I wanted to use for this. So I, in this digi kit, mocked up some pages that we can cut out and just put in for our journal. The other thing I did, ephemera wise, was this. You always work with two. This book's going to have 2 signatures. It's not always 2 signatures, but this one's going to have 2 signatures. Signatures are the groups of pages put together, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. So that's for signature 2. I put in a little advertising. I love advertising, and trying to find original advertising that would be of this era is past my skill set. You either have to come across it in an estate sale. I've never seen anything this old like this at Goodwill or anything like that. So I put it together so you don't have to go hunting for it. So this is, both of these are Sears and Roebuck. So you used to be able to order a house. All of the bits and pieces would come. So you could buy this Alhambra house, all of the things you need to build it, for $2,674. And these are the ladies' hats that are similar to the pictures that we have. So, and then this is the Hathaway home, and it was $1,334, and some more ladies' hats with the Eiffel Tower in it. So anyway, so that's my ephemera. And then the other thing that you can use to fill up your book, music pages. I really prefer to use music that doesn't have words in it sometimes. Dictionary pages are awesome. Now, what I have done with these dictionary pages, I wanted them to be a little bit stronger. So I took 3 sheets, because this was like almost Bible paper, you know, where it's really thin. And I glued them together just using a glue stick. Glue down the center. Glued the 3 sheets together, and then sewed around the edges with a zigzag stitch. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm getting a lot of sun coming in. Unusual for Oregon. And then I antiqued around the edges. And then no journal, no journal that deals with botanicals is complete without a little bit of, oh shoot, what's her name? Edith Holden. So this is an Edith Holden page. Now, Edith Holden pages are too big to go into your journal this way. See, they're just too big. So you have to put them in sideways and fold them. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. This is out of a really old magazine. I did find this one at Goodwill. It was from the very early 30s. So it's not quite the same. These are teens and 20s, but I thought this was kind of cool. It was a travel advertisement for South Africa. And I did the same thing. I put 3 sheets together, zigzagged around to make them stronger. This is out of the same magazine. Another Edith Holden, because we have 2 signatures, remember. And my other dictionary page. The other thing I printed out that you will want to have in your journal are journaling cards. And so these are going to be the decorations for the journal cards. And all of these are 1923 Fruit and Garden and Home magazine covers. I just thought that they were really cute, and so we will do some projects on making journaling cards with each of these. And then I made these tea card size, so those are the size of a little tea card that used to come in sets of tea. So without delay, let's get started right away getting all of this stuff ready to go into our journal. I also took care of that sun that was causing problems with being able to see. So let's start with our ephemera first. When you're printing out a DigiKit, when I printed all of my prints except for this one I printed full size, but all the other ones I printed so that the print would be 7 inches tall. So you've got to know how to work your printer. I said 7 inches tall, and then it decided, you know, what width it is, because the width was fine, however it turned out. So here's what I like to do. I'm going to take my ruler, I'm going to place it right on the edge, right there, and just give it a good little rip. Like so. Let's do the other side. The ripped edge looks really nice, especially on something that's supposed to be old. And if you notice, I added a lot of digital age along the edge. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm digitally aged sometimes. So let's do that. So now when you're doing this, this is called putting a deckled edge on. So if you want the fancy term. So this little rough edge that's right here is called a deckle. And so that looks pretty good on both sides. I'm liking it. So let's do the other one. So what we're going to do after we get these all cut out, ripped out, is go back and antique the edges, because we want it to look consistent. And I put this background color in, but you can't do that when you rip your paper. The whiteness of the paper, see, shows through, so you have to take care of that. I hope you guys will enjoy making junk journals. So that looks really good too. It seems like it takes a lot of stuff to get going doing this, but if you're a creative person, you can come up with all kinds of ways around things. So like what we've done so far, you know, you may have some images and old magazines and stuff that you can work with. If not, go ahead and get a kit, if not from me, from somebody else in a theme that you're interested in. Find an old book that you can cut the pages out of. Learn how to work your printers so that you know how to print them in different sizes. Now, this one, I wanted it to be really small in the book because a lot of these books were really small. So I only printed it 6 inches high because when you do your junk journals, it's really nice to have things that are all different sizes. And so the other thing that's a little bit frustrating, no matter how good you are using your printer, sometimes your printer pulls things in not straight. So I'll show you what to do with that. All right, so let's just keep moving through here. I know that learning to do a lot of technology things can be kind of tricky, but YouTube, being you're watching me on YouTube, I know you know about YouTube, you can learn to do anything on YouTube. So if you're having trouble, you're stuck not knowing how to do something, look it up on YouTube. And that's how I learned to do Photoshop. That's how I learned all of it. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut these out. Now, I could rip these out, but I think I want to cut them. So, I think I lined them up perfectly. So they should be able to just be cut out using your little cutter. And we'll just stack these to the side. We're just getting all of our little goodies together so we can start our journal. It's always, I don't know, finding your theme is exciting. And then getting all the stuff is exciting. Figuring out how much stuff you already have is terrifying because if you're like me, you have way too much stuff. Oh, it wiggled on me. Still wiggled on me. Hold on, hold on. Guess maybe I can't talk and cut at the same time. Nah. I can talk and do anything at the same time. Okay. There we go. And then these little tea cards I thought were so cute, and it gave me another chance to use up some more of these images that I had of these really adorable children. So now, what do you do if you don't have a fancy cutter like this? Well, let's show you. Because I am very much into using what you have. So if you're into sewing, which if you were watching my channel before you watched this, you are, you have a mat, use your razor blade, and just do like that. And then it takes just a minute more, but you don't have to go out and buy anything special. There we go. So the first little tea card is done. And you just keep going. You go through and cut everything out. So I'll come back and finish all of these and another time. I'm pretty sure you understand how to get those cut out. Now, one word of warning, if you use a razor blade like me, always have some place where you store it. I keep a magnet close by and I just set it on the magnet, because the last thing you want to have happen is to have that fall on the floor and then step on it. So here is our dictionary pages. You can see that one has been antiqued, the other one has not. So let's go ahead and antique that. I love to use, what's this stuff called? Parchment paper. You use it in baking or cooking. I use it all the time. I have a really good chicken wing recipe that you can't make without parchment paper because I bake them in the oven. So anyway, you use distress ink like this, and this one is Antique Photo, and you just, and a little makeup sponge. Gayle Agostinelli, she's the one that did that. I was using just one of those little white wedgie sponges because I didn't have the fancy brush that you can use with this. And I saw her using this bigger one, and I said, I've got one of those. I've never used it. Ran and got it, and boy, it works really good. So again, use what you have. So there's my nice antiqued page. And you just keep going around the edges, antiquing it all up. So now, in the DigiKit that I did and printed, on the back sides of each of the pages, I very, very faintly added lines. So, yeah, I do better in my writing if I have lines instead of a giant page with no lines. I tend to start going downhill as I write. So that's on there. Edith Holden pages already look old except for where the center is, and so you would just take some time and antique her book pages. Edith Holden, she's really popular with journalers. They love her work. And her story is really interesting. She did all of these illustrations in 1906, or at least these. And she died really young. It was either an accident or suicide. It's not known which. And her journal sat unpublished for a very long time. These were published in 1977. So, and her books were bestsellers for a really long time. And I believe that this is called a facsimile reproduction. I think that this is her writing. I don't think that this is a font. Now, if you buy her books that do not have the facsimile reproduction, you do get a typeset font. And people do tend to like her writing better. So that's good to know, right? So this old magazine, I do have some words of warning about using old magazines or old dictionaries or whatever. Make sure the pages are in good enough shape they're not going to fall apart. That's really important. Sometimes paper rots, you know, especially when it's all nice and brown and, you know, aged looking like we really like. Sometimes those pages can just disintegrate. So you don't want to use those as the backing for your pages. You can use them for some decorations and stuff maybe, but don't use it as a page that you're going to use in your journal. The other thing is, even in children's books, our language has changed. There are words that were used 100 years ago that are not used today, that are considered, and rightly so, not to be uttered. And it appears more than you would imagine in these old pages. Children's books, adult books, everything. So just pay attention, you know, to what is on the page that you're putting into your journal. And if you plan on covering it up, you know, that's all right. But if it's something that you're gonna, you know, leave until you glue a picture on and it's gonna be there for a long time or something, I would think twice about having words that are considered offensive today. So that's my advice on that. Okay, so this is another thing that is really nice to have, but if you don't have one, you'll come up with a way of folding your papers. But this does help make a nice crease. This photo paper is like a lightweight cardstock, so it's a little bit hard to fold. Now, when you're thinking about your images for a junk journal, the center of your signature, which I'll show you in just as soon as we get there, you need to have an image that will go clear across the center, because you'll see this whole thing when your book lays open. This is the only pages, the center of the signatures, where you see the whole page. So for this kit, these are the two centers. And then the other page that you'll see, when you have your two signatures flipped open this way, it's the last page that's in your signature. So your two signatures will sit side by side like this, and you want it to have something that kind of coordinates together. So that'll make more sense here in just a minute. But for right now, we're going to, and when you score, do it from the wrong side. And we're going to do it, just a second. You know, this little thing, I think I got it on upside down. It fell off and then I put it back on. So let's try, yeah, much better. So 5.5 is the center of an 8.5 by 11. So 5.5 is right here, and I'm going to just score down, right down the center. You know, it would be really helpful if they had not put the seam for the thing right in this. Oh, that's ridiculous. Hold on. So let's just move it over to here. Much better. So there's that. So now I am going to have this folded this way. All right, so there's the center of the signature. It will be folded right there, and this is the back. So there's our first one. Yay! Let's do the next one. Let's find the center, 5.5. 5.5 is right there. And move it over so that we can score this page. Very good. All right, so there's my two centers, and then these two are the two outside pieces. 5.5 is right there. So you can see this does make life a little easier, but these are going to go this way. So there we go. But you could also see that, you know, with a little bit of carefulness, you could probably do a pretty good job, because it doesn't have to be perfect. That's the other beautiful thing about doing these, is they're not perfect. So there's that. So those are those pages already folded. So I would do that to all of my other pages that are made out of the photo paper. But what we need to do now, after you get them all folded, is we're going to have to trim them down in size. Because remember, our book is, I forget the exact, I know exactly what I want to make them, but, so it's 5 1/4, and I'm going to cut my pages down to 5. You want them a little smaller than the book, and let's see, right here. A little smaller than the book because you don't want your pages to hang out the end. And then, but you don't want them taller either. So let's just get this done. I'll show you. I'm doubting myself. So yes, this is 7. Let's start with the width first. So all these pages, I printed them at 7 inches tall, 7 inches high, because that was the one that couldn't be changed. And I'm ripping them again because I wanted that nice little ripped edge. You could do that. You could cut them. Lots and lots of times people cut them, but I just wanted them ripped. All right. And then we want it at 5. 18.5 would be 23. And you can see where this mat is really nice. I hope you have one. If not, you can just use a ruler and measure it out. All right. All right. So there it is. So there's that page. And let's do another one, because that one was so not clear. So I know that this is exactly 7 inches tall. Here we go. Here we go. And then lining it up. And I'm doing it just slightly under 5. I'll show you why in just a second. All right, so go through and do all your pages, and the difference between 8.5 and 11 and 7 by 10, you can see it doesn't end up being the same. You'll end up with this little edge here on the outside, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that here in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and rip these out, and then we'll put together a signature. So hold on. Okay, I have placed the signatures together, just threw them together to see what we have. I have not antiqued them yet, and that really gives a lot of depth to each of the pages, but I wanted you to see. Okay, so we're going to have 2 signatures in this book. Will look like that. It looks kind of scrimpy right now, but we're going to fill it up even more. So let's take a look and see what we have. Let's look at this. Well, first of all, this is what the center of your book will look like. See how those 2 kind of match? It's always the best if your signatures, they don't have to match what's in them or how you put them together, but they should rhyme. Does that make sense? So you can see this is not an exact color match or an exact anything, but they look nice together. So they rhyme. Okay. And then that's the center of this signature, and that's the center of this signature. So when your book is open, it's going to lay like that. All right, so let's just take a quick gander through. Now remember, we printed all of these extra things here that we're going to be putting in pockets and tuck spots and stuff like that. So don't fear if it looks kind of plain. So our front page is here, and then this is our first back of the sheet, and it's the one that has lines on it, our Edith Holden. This is a piece of coffee stained paper, and look, an envelope. I'm sure you all have envelopes someplace. You just tuck it in here, and I'll show you what we'll be doing with that later. Our dictionary page. So if you're getting started in doing this, highly recommend a good size dictionary so that you can use the full-size pages. They come in super handy. They're super cheap. The back of another sheet has the lines on it, and it's our pretty lady. Another piece of coffee stained paper, and that's where some of our decorating and stuff will go. This one, you might not be able to see it really well. That is a piece of antique silk that I put lines on it, just extremely faint. I don't know if you can see them with the camera or not. And then lightened it up so that most of these I lightened up. I just thought it looked really nice for the journal, and I just thought that that really, really went well with this journal. Our little girl, our book page. See how having things that are different sizes, see how this is not as big as the other? It looks really nice. The back of another one with lines. Another envelope. This one doesn't have lines. It has very faint writing. Somebody had written a research paper and submitted it to the Smithsonian and whatever he's talking about here, and I just faded it way down so that you can't, it's part of the design, but you could write over the top of it and still stay going straight. At least that's how I would do it. And you can see these are not antiqued yet. A garden scene. The back of the page here. Now the back of this one, I put music paper on the back, photoshopped it in, because I thought it's not lines, but it makes lines. So that's why I chose to do that. The other thing I suggest is finding, this is a organ book. It's old. I mean, it's not too old, but it just has page and page and page, and it's nice thick paper of music without words. So it's very generic once you rip it up. And so where I shopped, this one was 39 cents because it was a paperback book. So 39 cents for that and $2.50 for a dictionary, and you're on your way. All right, so here's my Sears ad, my Sears house, part of that old magazine. Here's some of that music, the center, and then we go back down the other side where you see the other half of everything that's in there. And some of this looks really plain, but we'll fix that, I promise. That's what our next projects are all going to be about. So just flipping you through so you can see what a signature looks like. And like I said, I need to go back in and antique all those pages. But we can only put so much in one video, right? So here's this signature. Like I said, you can see that it matches, it rhymes. It's not exactly the same. But goes together quite nicely. The center. And you sew your signatures right through the center here. And when we get all of our fancy work done, I'll show you how to do that. And it's actually really, really easy. So we're well on our way to having this done. Oh, I kind of see a mistake here. Can you guys see that? Both of these are the same. So if I took, I don't know if I'll leave that or move this so that maybe it could go straight across, or maybe I'll move the signatures around so that they don't match. I don't know yet. This is what you do. You put everything together and then you audition it. See if it's how you like it. And my Edith Holden and my last page. So until next time, this was Cindy with Vintage to New. Bye-bye.